Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to live more effectively with your borderline personality disorder. It's my goal to help you better understand your emotions, why you feel them intensely as you do, why you feel them when you feel them, and to live in a more effective life using my own personal reflections and experience after living with the disorder for 21 years and utilizing skills such as DBT. My goal is to help you achieve your life goals, whatever they may be in life, love, relationships, money, stability. I'm just here to share my insight with all of you. I'm not a therapist, a life coach, a PhD, but I can answer one question that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to have borderline personality disorder? I was diagnosed in 2001 and have spent my second half of my life thus far committed to living a more effective life and enrolling myself in multiple rounds of DBT. I want to say it's between 3 and 5 now. Sticking with therapy. I have every major book, every major workbook that I read and that I redo because I want to have a more healed and peaceful life. So, if you do have borderline personality disorder, it's good news. Congratulations, because you have, out of all of the 15 personality disorders, the one that is the most highly treatable, the one with the most knowledge and clinical research behind it. There are more studies, there's more information, and there is the most successfully proven modality to treat BPD, which is dialectical behavior therapy, or what is known as DBT, than any of them out there. So if that sounds good to you, please consider hitting subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week, and I'd love you to check them out. So today's video was a video suggestion. I produced a video, and I'll put a link up here it was a short video entitled Calling for Your Video Suggestions. And so please, if you have one, use the link, send me a note. If you have a topic or something that you want to ask me, or there's a topic that you would like to be covered. And my friend over in the UK at BPD World, hello, she sent me a question, which was, could I talk about how having BPD has affected my life? So let's do that today. And I'm going to kind of do this on the fly, off the cuff. I haven't written down any notes. So today's video is entitled, How Having BPD has affected my life, my own personal reflections on my past, present, and future. I will share that I had like most of us with BPD, I came out of a super traumatic and invalidating childhood and environment. I had a mother who had bipolar, later we found out BPD, substance abuse issues. She was a pretty young mom. She was about 23 or 24 when she had me. And a father who was violent, rageful, physically destructive. He beat my mother. He beat me. In fact, he tried to kill my mother at one point with his hands around her neck. And if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that, constantly my father has continued to invalidate me by saying that never happened. I'm sorry you think that happened. You must have remembered it wrong. If you ever hear those phrases out of someone, those are pretty typical gaslighting, narcissistic phrases that reek of invalidation. But now I know what that looks like. But when I was 3 or 4 years old and your brain is still developing, that takes a huge toll. So I grew up in this super chaotic environment, which, now I look back on it and I didn't know if I could be safe, where I could be safe. My mother tells me, or when I was in contact with her, told me that they used to find me like hiding in the closet. I've had relatives over the years tell me that I was, mean to other kids when I was little, that one time, I spit at someone. What normal 5 or 6-year-old does that? Well, none. They're being abused. So when I was growing up in this environment, it affected me I didn't really have time to think about how it affected me when I'm living in this situation, which I think we could all kind of understand as a collective point of view. You were just trying to survive. And in my last video, why I don't talk to my parents, I'll throw up a link, why I don't speak to my parents, you grow up in this toxic and destructive traumatic environment that becomes normalized. It becomes normal that dad hits mom. Maybe it never seems normal to you, but you expect it, right? Like if you had a week where everyone was like really kind to each other, you'd be like, gee, what's wrong with everyone, right? So I grew up having to fend for myself in a lot of respects. I was the only child. My parents didn't have a lot of family nearby us. And so it was a scary experience. I remember the police coming into our house when my dad had beat my mom, and this is before there were domestic abuse laws. And I mean, so these things that were seared into my memory had a profound effect in my development. I became hypervigilant as a result, and hypervigilant means you are always on guard, thinking that something is lurking around the corner that is dangerous. You catch yourself looking over your shoulder. You're sometimes I've been afraid of my own shadow. It also, as I started to move out of the house and into college and young adulthood, I developed a pretty thick skin. You know, I've always come from a family that like joked around and had a sense of humor. And I think humor is definitely one of the things that I use to diffuse potentially explosive problems in the home. But as well, I began to use humor in my adult life. And if you're using it as a defense mechanism, at least in my case, there was a lot of sarcasm and a lot of things that hurt other people. And I didn't know it at the time. You know, I was really acting without any knowledge. This is before I got diagnosed and even after I got diagnosed and before I really knew what was going on psychologically with me. And until I was able to get DBT under my belt and start hitting some of these issues head on, I was really kind of living this unconscious life, like hurting people through my sarcasm, through my defenses, you know, don't touch me. Like, why are you getting so close to me? You know, and I wanted people to read my face, you know, be like, oh, don't fuck with her. Right? Because if I was emoting that, like, she's tough, don't come near her, then I say to others, like, don't mess with her. She's not an easy target, because I grew up in a traumatic environment where I had to survive like that. And you don't just, you know, I'm never going to be fully away from that, right? Like, I'm always going to be looking behind my shoulder a little bit. Like, I'm always going to be more of the safety person. And actually, that's one of the good things that's come out of this in a way, because people count on me. I have the first aid kit. I have the working smoke detectors. I have the fire extinguishers. You know, now people see me as a source of reliability on safety. Part of my business, like one of the ways that I sell myself is that I'm focused on safety. I'm focused on safety. And I back that up by my actions. But because growing up, my parents were arguing all the time. Nobody wanted their kids to come over and play with me. Like, I wouldn't send my kids over in that kind of environment. And because of that, I didn't really learn how to develop friendships. I was too busy bursting into tears in kindergarten. I was too busy wondering, like, if my dad was gonna, like, use a right hook on my mom. So the time for like developing friendships and learning those cognitive social skills for me was, you know, stunted. I did not have those. And I developed a chip on my shoulder because I wanted to be a part of the group. I wanted to stand in the circle, right? Like, I wanted to be invited to kids' parties. And it seemed that when I was invited to kids' parties in elementary school and to high school, I would blow it. You know, like right before the party was going to start, I would like start an argument with them. And this is like where self-sabotage comes into view, right? And I think this is also plays into like the push-pull. I hate you, don't leave me, right? This fear of abandonment. Oh, this is feeling good. I'm beginning to be included. I'm allowed to come to this party. That's really cool. I don't know. This doesn't feel like my normal baseline home life. Like, I better protect myself. So let me, tell you to go F yourself and ruin my invite, and then I don't get invited, and then poof, I don't have to worry about that, right? So that repeated itself a lot for me. Like, it's taken me quite a while. I have been diagnosed and gone through therapy and DBT and have been working on this stuff for the past 20 years, but only really up until I would say 5-10 years ago, with a lot of practice and a lot of reversal of my behaviors, had I really been able to stop doing that. Like, I started to put a reminder on my calendar. Are you beginning to self-sabotage? Are you ruining something that you want because you're afraid? Financially speaking, borderline has, it's created some financial instability in me. I'm 40 years old. Certainly there are people with larger 401ks and there are people with no 401ks, right? I try not to compare myself too much. But, I would get into jobs, I would get dysregulated, especially if you're in an environment where you're in a open seated floor plan. Hopefully you were able to work from home prior to the pandemic, but if you are working home now, you have a job where you can work from home and you're not like a nurse or a firefighter where you have to be out physically at your job. Hopefully that's allowed you to kind of, take some of the pressure off of, for me, it was always this pressure, like, they're going to find out something's wrong with me. They're going to find out something's wrong with me. They're going to see, they're going to know, they're going to like start Googling the symptoms. And they're like, you have BPD, don't you? People don't know what the hell it is. Not really. They really don't. So, but for me, I got fired quite a few times, and sometimes I resigned and I just walked out in a huff. Now, some of those jobs, I was fine to be fired from. And one of them that I walked out of, it was the right thing to do. And this is like in the corporate world, this is like in my 30s. But I would have liked to have done it in a little bit more effective way, right? Like, I literally one day, just after 2 years of this job, just like threw my hands up in the air and like walked out. And then like on a Super Bowl Sunday, I came when no one was there and I cleaned out all my shit. So having this emotional ability and this frequent mood changes and frequent displays of emotion, we all know is a lot easier to contain when you're not distracted by 20 people needing something or chewing over here in your ear, or this person yelling or that person laughing. Like, for me, being at work, sometimes it was incredibly difficult to be concentrated on what I was doing. So either sometimes I suffered from work performance issues, or I suffered behavioral ramifications from, pulling faces, rolling my eyes, or falling behind because I needed to work from home for 2 days because the previous night I'd cried my whole eyes out. My face was all swollen up from crying and people would know. So it created a lot of job insecurity. And, also by nature, I'm kind of a person that's like, I tell it like it is, not harshly, but like, I don't sugarcoat shit. Like like the sending of the emails in the corporate world, like, does that make sense? Like, I hope everything's okay. Like, all of those little microaggressions that like go on, like, let me know if you need me to explain anything. Ugh, like, I just want to flip a table sometimes. Even now when like my friends read me their work emails, I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, this is stressing me the hell out. So I was never like a sugarcoater. I'm like, I gotta get things done. Like, I'm busy. Like, my job was spent working for CEOs and generals and like people that were busy people. Like, I didn't have a lot of time to coddle people. And, perhaps, yeah, exactly. Right. So perhaps, part of that's because I'm a woman and like, maybe that's easier to, be told that by a man. Like, I just need this, like, get it done. Nobody blinks an eye when a man says it. But so I've never been like a sugarcoater, but I've been respectful, I think, most of the time. And I think I'm a pretty smart person, and it bothers me to take orders from someone that I don't think knows what they're doing. Boom, I ended up creating my own business and being in business for myself. And it wasn't like the same business. Like, I went from the corporate world, I did something totally different. I opened up my own pet sitting business, and I'm so much happier. Like, today where I live, it was torrentially downpouring, and I was out walking 2 dogs, and I had a big smile on my face because I literally thought to myself, whew, I'd rather be out here in this awesome rain walking these 2 cool dogs that are going to sit with me after and lick my face, rather than sitting in some warm office with a space heater at my feet, which does sound, with some cocoa, which sounds very cozy, but then having to read all these tense emails that are going to put me in an emotionally bad mood. Those high work stress environments, they only contributed to my BPD. They didn't help me get out of it. And I really think, a series of steps in my life have helped me out of my BPD. One was going through DBT. One was cutting out certain people from my life. The other was learning to work for myself. And I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have to work with anybody else. And if you can do that, I highly endorse it on any number of levels. But insofar as it's affected my BPD, it's given me the energy that I don't have to expend trying to be effective at work and having thinking of my interpersonal DBT skills at work. I save all of that energy for other stuff, like creating a YouTube channel or getting a part-time job, whatever the case may be. But financially speaking, I have, because of all of the stop and starts that I've had with these different jobs, I haven't saved as much money as I've wanted. I don't have the retirement fund number that I would like to see, but I'm also not going to sit down and poo-poo myself and quarterback last night's game. There's no point in doing that. I'm where I am now, and I've got to look forward. So, but no doubt, I've definitely had more financial instability because I've walked out of jobs or gotten into trouble or made impulsive buying decisions, right? And then I don't have enough money for a legitimate bill that I need. Now that stuff I've gotten under control. I don't spend I'm not oh, I'm just going to take a vacation to the Bahamas tomorrow and put it on my credit card. No. If anything goes on my credit card right now, it's an expensive car bill or something like that I need. I need the car to do my job, to make money. So my life now through DBT and through you get the basics in DBT, but you got to go out on the field, which is your daily life, and you have to work these things. You have to practice them and re-practice them until they become second nature. You're not even it's like brushing your teeth. You're not even thinking about it anymore. So, but up to those points, okay, so you take my childhood, that was the trauma, just barely surviving. It got a little bit worse when I got out in the real world, because now that I was no longer in that survival mode of will dad beat me? Will mom overdose on pills? And then I get out in the real world, and now you have, okay, I don't have to worry about that so much anymore, but kind of not really. You are more worried, are these people just as dangerous as my mom and dad? If that's all you grew up with for 20 years, yeah, that's the lens that you see people in. It's no wonder that you don't trust a lot of people. So feeling so dysregulated, and then I kind of healed, and then I had these stop starts. And then the more steps that I took, I found greater financial stability, right? I found that, now that I always feared if I opened my own business, would I have the same problems that I had in my regular workplace? Difficult people, would I be too sad to show up? Would I have crying spells? Would I become unreliable? Literally none of that's happened. It's, if anything, people are we love you. When can we book you? You're so reliable. Thank you. You're so easy to talk to. And part of that too is that I choose what clients I want to work with. If I get a bad feeling, I'm You can't do that at your job. You get a bad feeling about anyone, you just text your coworker about what a turd they are, right? So, I still hold on to the safety part, like that vigilance. I still, I went through 5 years of MMA. Hi, sweetie. You want to give me a kiss? Thank you. I went, that's my co-pilot, my 2 co-pilots. I still went through MMA training and self-defense. Like, I recommend that to anyone. Learn how to shoot if that's safe for you and you can psychologically be around a weapon safely. Learn self-defense, learn things that empower you and make you feel good because it's exercise and it's serotonin increasing through your body, but it also gives you a peace of mind. But paired with that, I've also learned, okay, I can look over my shoulder, but I can also trust people. I don't have to be worried all of the time. I have to surround myself with the right kinds of people. I have to trust people after getting to know them a while, right? The more skills and the easier, or the more time I've had to practice these skills, the easier it's become to let things play out slowly. Back in the childhood days and the early adulthood days, I didn't really have that. I was like just a tornado of what the heck's going on. And now as we get into my future, when I look towards my future, even now, like now that I've kind of dropped the guard a bit, and I'm not like so all the time, people come up to me now. Like a guy last night, like tried to like pick me up at a gas station, we're both pumping gas. And that was probably because like I had like a neutral face and I was just like looking pretty happy. If I look like, who would you rather approach? The person that looks like this or the person who looks like this? Right. So I was closing off a lot of people. Now, I didn't give that guy my number, but I'm just saying, like, now that I'm more open, I'm attracting people that are attracted to that, right? Doesn't mean that will be a match, but it does mean that, like, I'm going in the right direction, because before people wouldn't reach out to me like that. I've been through tons of therapy, and I've spent a lot of money. Like, we go back to money. I've spent a lot of money, the tens of thousands, on things like DBT and therapy and books and hospitalizations. But you have to look at it kind of like I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it is. It's nothing not to shake a stick at, but you have to think about it as well as an investment, like a 4-year college or a house. It's something that, yes, it costs money up front, but it's going to pay you returns later. You buy a house, yes, it's $200,000, $300,000, but you're going to live in it. It's going to protect you. It's going to appreciate. You're going to sell it for double the value one day. Same thing with your college education. Yes, it costs a lot. You start out, you get a shitty job, you're not getting paid a lot, but eventually your credentials are going to be what separates you from the other candidates. And that's how I look at the therapy and investment of myself, that it pays off and it shows returns. So those are just sort of my quick fire thoughts about how BPD has affected me in my early life, my young adulthood, and where I'm now, which is middle-aged. And I'm feeling really hopeful. I haven't had a crying spell in like over a year. I don't mean just like a tears. I mean like an out of control thing. And that's also due in part because I cut out some of the people that were doing that to me, that were making me more dysregulated. And you'll be, over the years, I've become a better investigator about who I let into my life, why and when and how long they stay there, and is this right for me? Before I let everybody in, now I'm like, you got to pass the moat if you want to get to the castle. Like, I got to make sure you're safe to come in. So those are my quick thoughts. Let me know what you think below. Please share some thoughts below also, like how having BPD has affected your life. I'm really keen to know. I really like reading your comments, and they're very helpful, and they often give me ideas and other things that I would like to share or create a video on. So please drop me a note below. And also, if you have a video suggestion, please drop that as well. This has been BPD Woman. My name is Jen. I thank you for watching. Consider subscribing. And until I see you next time, whatever you do, please be effective. Bye-bye.